Yakupov, Anthony Bennett, Bryan Bullington, they're all busts in pro sports. And coming up this weekend at lightweight, looking to avoid that dreaded moniker, we have the Bonecrusher, Marc Diakiese, taking on El Fenomeno, Joel Alvarez. And listen, I mean, for both these guys, they lost their respective last fights. For Alvarez, it was a long time ago against Arman Tsarukyan. He got beat to a pulp. And for Marc Diakiese, everybody had him to beat Michael Johnson, but when the takedowns didn't work and the striking wasn't there, it was Johnson, pitter-patter, let's get at her like Letterkenny on the outside, and getting that win over Diakiese. And if you look at it, Matt, I mean, for Marc Diakiese, we talk about how good could the wrestling be. Well, you saw that against Slava Borshev. You saw that against Damir Hadzovic, both primary strikers, but 11 takedowns against one Borshev and 8 against Damir Hadzovic. Off to the races. Double knee wraps. Marc Diakiese. Great Britain top team. Brad Pickett in the corner. There's so much to like about Diakiese, but where I say Yakupov, who's now bounced around in the KHL.
Yeah, what happened to him?
He bounced around in the KHL. Where I say Anthony Bennett, he bounced around everywhere.
He averaged 1.7 points per game on a team that won the Euro League. That's tough.
Wild. Diakiese was one of those guys that came into the UFC with a lot of flash and flair. A Bama lightweight champ, and we've got a lot of former Bama champs on this card. Paul Craig was a light heavyweight champ there. Daniel Barez was a Bama flyweight champ. Diakiese got his bread buttered there. He comes into the UFC, and you look at the fights that he had and the wins that he had. That giant performance bonus 30-second knockout over Teemu Packalén.
One of my favorite knockouts ever.
And then it's a 3-fight losing streak for Diakiese, and it's been a lot of wins, a lot of losses so far. For Joel Alvarez, comes in as an AFL lightweight champ, and if you know anything about the AFL, not that great. So you look at Alvarez and you go, okay, well, who are some famous Spanish fighters in the UFC? And you go, Abner Alvarez, like, is he the only one I can think of? Juan Aspinall, Juan recently retired. Joel Alvarez is one of 2 Spanish fighters on this card, and they're the only 2 active. It's Alvarez and it's Daniel Barez, and that's it. But for Alvarez, you saw a lot of, I'm getting taken down, and then I'm getting the submission, like against Danilo Belluardo, like he did against Joe Duffy. The only fight where we saw Joel Alvarez do something we've never seen in his pro career before, although there were some people that pointed it out before his fight, against Thiago Moises, he fought mean. He walked forward. The elbows, the strikes, the kicks, everything was there for Joel Alvarez. And he's got a really nice teep. He'll throw it as a teep to the body, mix it into the head. Alvarez, when he strikes, is really fun to watch. But again, his last time out, terrible visuals against Arman Tsarukyan, who's a very good fighter. So Alvarez in this camp, training at home, but also going to Morocco to train with the Azaitsars. Ottman, was it a stoppage? If you're getting punched in the face, don't give 2 thumbs up.
That elbow is pretty cool.
That's never a good look. But when you look at this fight, Matt, again, the striking is there for both men.
So was Alvarez against Moises, Christoph Waltz, and Inglourious Bastards? Was that like Apex Mountain for him?
I don't know.
Because for me, Alvarez, if he is able to demonstrate that level of striking along with the jiu-jitsu that we all obviously know he has, then he is a really dangerous fighter. We haven't even brought up the fact that he's a 6'3" lightweight. Like, Joel Alvarez is one of the biggest guys in the weight class.
That's the nightcap point of this one. You put a little bit of Bailey's in the coffee. Matt, Joel Alvarez,
He's so big.
157.5. Once he showed up for a lightweight fight, 159.5. So it's always a worry whether or not Joel Alvarez is going to make that weight.
100%. And at 6'3", no wonder it's a worry for him to weigh in at 155. But this is an interesting fight because if both guys show up at their best versions, we're basically getting maybe a ranked lightweight fight is a bit of a stretch too far, right? But if Marc Diakiese is able to show on the feet what he's been able to do in the past, and for Diakiese, I've had a really hard time reading him, especially after that losing streak. And I think a lot of people have because the Nasrat Haqparast loss is a really bad one, right? He was getting beat up on the feet and just really didn't look like he wanted to accept that damage. But to his credit, he was able to reinvent himself and really add a lot more offensive takedowns into his game because the guy who fought Teemu Packalén, for as good as his striking looked, would not have been able to go for the level of takedowns he's been able to go for in his last number of fights. But for Diakiese, I've always really wondered this. Is him reinventing his style the thing that gets him a higher ceiling, or the thing that just makes him stay in the UFC for a little bit longer? Because if Diakiese is able to blend his wrestling in with the level of striking he's at right now, he's still a good fighter, don't get me wrong, but if he had kind of the 2 parts of his game that were able to blend together a little bit better, I do think we would get a borderline top 15 talent. And that might seem crazy to say now, but looking at where Marc Diakiese is in his career. You can come after me saying I'm ridiculous, but like Marc Diakiese at one point had lightning fast hands, really quick kicks as well, is really good at keeping his distance, and can go for the offensive takedown. I know there's some weaknesses in there too, but those are foundations and skills you can definitely build upon. And especially against a guy like Alvarez, who is so long on the outside.
And Alvarez was on that way, that top 15, everything. He fought Thiago Moises. He gets that win. Then he takes on Arman Tsarukyan. That fight, February 26, 2022. So Alvarez was out a full year, and then he was due back earlier this spring against Zubair Tukhugov, and he is out, is Joel Alvarez. So Elvis Brenner steps in and then sets the world on fire. So we'll see how this one goes, Matt. Alvarez with the layoff is favored to get the win. We have a look at the Tapology vote. Surprise us there to you. People don't like picking Marc Diakiese in fights.
Which is weird because I feel like I pick him in every video.
Not the last... Oh, you don't know. Yeah, you did. In this one, I'm going to say over under 75% Alvarez.
Probably over.
And it is over. So 836 total votes, 88% Alvarez, 63% by submission for the 12% that have Diakiese, 73% by decision. I'm going to go one hit, one kill jiu-jitsu, Joel Alvarez, to get the win in the matchup. I think the striking can get it done. I don't like the pullback on a taller guy at 155. But Diakiese hasn't shown me that striking in years.
Exactly.
So I'll go with Alvarez, even though his takedown defense is porous. You gotta walk so you can run with your jiu-jitsu.
And that's the weird thing about Joel Alvarez. He does fight a bit like a Mackenzie Dern, right? You don't look at the offensive wrestling percentage and think, wow, this guy really is like next level. But he is able to use his pressure to make his opponents take him down, something Marc Diakiese does do when he gets pressured, and it works for him. I'm not saying it's gonna work for everybody. You wouldn't teach everybody who has the level of jiu-jitsu Alvarez has to fight like him, but he has been able to make it work against people who aren't at the level of an Arman Tsarukyan. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but Arman Tsarukyan's a pretty talented fighter, so I also get Alvarez in this matchup, but I really think this could be a fun fight.
I got two Spaniards on the card. Matt's got one, a big-time matchup at lightweight. The next one coming up, Hot Chocolate Danny Roberts is taking on Johnny Parsons. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say. Let's get into it.